start at the beginning. Let's find out where you were born and how you got into the military, and if you had others in your family that were in the military, father or brothers.
Well, I was born, and I was going to do something amusing and say I was born in Illinois in 18 something or other, whatever, Mr. Lincoln, but I won't do that. In any case, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, in 1922. My father was a letter carrier, postman. My mother was a housewife. I have one, a brother and a sister, both of whom are now deceased. But I grew up in Brooklyn, went to Erasmus Hall High School, and only got as far as about a year out of high school when Pearl Harbor occurred. So there came a period where we would make choices about.
So that's sometime in the early 40s then.
Yeah, oh yes, yes. It was 41 was Pearl Harbor. So and eventually I enlisted in the Navy Aviation Cadet Program. I had to wait to get into it because prior to that time they always had a college requirement, and I hadn't had any college at all. So, except for some night courses I had taken. In any case, I fortunately got onto the NAVCAD program, they called it.
Now, before you go a little bit further, was there a reason you chose Navy over the other?
Good question. There were opportunities in other services, but I kind of liked the Navy, and I liked the idea of getting into an aviation program. Because it sounded more interesting, and I thought, it would really be a nice thing to do. At the end of the training period, which lasted over a year, we were commissioned ensigns and assigned to various places, squadrons and so forth. But that's how I got into it. I was about to be drafted anyhow.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So you went ahead and enlisted. Now, were some of your friends, I imagine, were drafted?
Yes, as a matter of fact, yeah. There were some friends who qualified. There were very rigorous rules, I thought, at the time. But fortunately, I was able to qualify.
Now, when you went into this program, where was that? Was that still in New York? Or
that was right in New York City.
Right in New York, okay.
And they sent us away to what they call pre-flight school, which was sort of a waiting area to start with. We went through a small flight program where they let you fly around in a Piper Cub. And after that, we went to University of North Carolina for 3 months of purely physical training. A lot of book work and whatever, but no flying. And from there we went to primary training, and then advanced training, and then on to
So how long was it? How long was it before you actually were in a plane flying?
It was, well, we started off just by these rides in Piper Cubs, and that was nothing. But it was 3 months at pre-flight school. After that, we went to primary training, and I went out that was out someplace in Indiana. Then eventually worked our way to Pensacola for final training, and that involved, I guess, about 3 months, 3.5 months.
What size group were you in? I mean, how many are going through this?
I think each class was probably maybe 100, 150. Something like that.
So now by the time you're in Pensacola, what are you flying now?
We were flying SNJs, which were sort of advanced trainers. It was the one level below the ones that the fleet people were flying. And we went to, once we graduated, that's when we commissioned ensigns. And that, I guess, was January of 44.
Okay.
Yeah. So in any case, we went from Pensacola to operational training in Melbourne, Florida, and for 3 months. Then they shipped us out to Chicago, which is a strange. Why Chicago? But in Lake Michigan, they had constructed an old, I guess, a ferry boat of some kind, with a flat deck on it, so that it was able to retain aircraft who would fly from Glenview, the Naval Air Station there, out to the ship in the middle of Lake Michigan, and make our first carrier landings.
Okay.
That was really exciting.
I'm sure it was.
It was really getting good by then. And you had to make 6 landings, satisfactory landings.
In succession, or did you have 6
No, we
tries?
did it all in one day. But the problem was, we were there like in December, and it took us about 2 weeks to get that flight in and make our 6 landings. Once you made the 6 landings, then you shipped out. So anyhow, it was very interesting. And it was nice. Chicago is a great town. I've always had warm feelings for it because they were so hospitable to service people. That was just a great town. And many years after that, I was stationed at Glenview, which was nice. In any case, we went from there to San Diego, and they sorted us all out and got people as they needed them. They put together air groups. They call it an air group. Now, an air group goes on to an aircraft carrier, and consists of about 3 squadrons.
So about how many planes is on an air carrier? I mean, I suppose it varied, but...
Yeah, I guess we had something like, let's say 50, 60.
Okay.
Yeah. My brain, as I get older, my brain gets a little slower. In any case, yeah, I think, well, 45 seems to stick up in my head, but I don't know.
Still a lot of planes for one.
Oh, you bet. You bet, yeah. And so in any case, we went from there, we shipped out to the West Coast, San Diego, and they sorted things out, kind of. And we had a group that had come through training together, about 6 of us. So we went to when they were doing that, we all decided we'd like to be together. So 6 guys. So they assigned us. They were very good, very accommodating. They assigned us to the same squadron. Okay. Now, a squadron was a group of about 45 people. And we were assigned to that group, and the group at that time was getting ready. They were on the way in an aircraft carrier. They were all new guys like us. Well, not all of them, but of course there were some senior people. But they were coming around on the way out to the Pacific. Now this was 1944.
1944, so you're about 22 now.
Yes.
22 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was, yeah, that's right. I was born in 22. And so raw ensigns, thinking we were going to complete the war, it would be over, because once we got there, we were going to kill everybody. Sure. You know, typical teenager stuff, you know. So anyhow, we joined the squadron, and in Hawaii, they shipped us out there, and we had to wait for a while. Finally, the ship came in with the air group that we were going to join, and they assigned us to the ship. We went aboard, were accepted by the air group. Now, the air group consisted of a fighter squadron, a bombing squadron, and a torpedo squadron.
Okay.
Various purposes, various missions, and they were all interconnected because there was the squadron commanders of the 3 of them. Then there was the air group commander, who reported to the commanding officer of the ship. So anyhow, typical chain of command. You have to realize, when I think of the things that I was doing and the things that I was finding out, You have to realize I was 22 years old. I was born in 22, and this was 44. So I didn't know, all of this was brand new to me.
Well, of course.
So it was kind of...
I'm sure for all of you.
All of us, absolutely. You never saw such babies, honest. But it was wartime, and it's kind of interesting to look back on it. But we were just babies. Here I am.
And from all different places, I'm assuming.
Yes, yeah, that was the interesting part too. Yeah, but in any case, we all ended up, all of us, brand new ensigns. Oh my Lord! And this was 1944, and we were headed for the South Pacific to win the war.
To win the war.
We weren't going to just fight it. It was over when we got there. So it would be, yeah. So anyhow, we're full of ourselves, and went off to, came aboard the ship, reported to the squadron. The commanding officer, first thing he said to us, I remember, he said he wasn't expecting any more green ensigns, you know. And here we were, about 6 of us. But it was, he welcomed us and said, great, love to have you with us, etc. We're going to pair you with more senior guys. There were some
Makes
people
sense.
in the squadron. We were not all green ensigns. A lot of them had been out before or had been in the Navy a long time and so forth. So it was a mixture of people. But we joined forces with the squadron and were welcomed and found out that it was a great group of people from all over the country, and it was a variety of people, not only geographically but academically. You know, like someone like myself, never seen the inside of a college dormitory. You know, I wasn't educated beyond high school. In any case, we all got together, had a typical group, and started training there. Training was pretty rigorous. Not only it was you had to mesh into the squadron, but you had to learn how to fly. You were given a wingmate, and the wingmate had a group of people that he flew with all the time. And so learning to operate operationally with the group took a little training. So we did quite a bit of that in Hawaii, and then took off for the South Pacific. And we were there through, this was June, I guess it was about 5 months, because it was October when the cruise wound up. But we went from there to Eniwetok, which is an island out in the middle of the Pacific. And the squadron performed well, went through a routine operational commitment for about till October. And in October, unfortunately, we had the ship was hit with a kamikaze airplane, completely taken out of commission. The ship came back, and that was the end of that cruise. But I must say, it was an exciting time. Of course, we had a squadron of 45 people, 45 pilots, and we lost 16 of them to combat and operational deaths, because they were gone. So the casualty list was pretty high. It's about a third, which was...
Well, Bill, share with our viewers a little bit, when you're going on one of these missions, what's involved. I mean, what's involved with that?
Well, you had a limited amount of fuel in the aircraft first. You had fighter aircraft, which meant that there was one person in there. That's all, nobody else, just you. And you had a group leader, and you had various sizes of aircraft in each group.
Mm-hmm.
Could be just 4 of you, could be 16 and whatever, depending on the mission. Now, almost continually, we had airplanes that are continually circulating the group because we were in the war zone. There were Japanese airplanes in that area too, but that was not the real cause of the casualties. It was all of the air raids that we had to. MacArthur's philosophy was that we were going to take island after island after island, and so as each island got taken over by the ground troops,
Mm-hmm.
The aircraft carriers moved on, and we kept moving further west, west, and west, with the eventual thought that they would take the Philippines and then go on to the mainland of Japan. And that worked out pretty much the way, right? Somewhat not too long after we came back on that first cruise, they dropped the atomic bombs over Tokyo, and not Tokyo, Hiroshima, and that ended the war. So, but that cruise was just the beginning of my career in the Navy. I came back after this operational cruise, and the war was over after they dropped the atomic bomb, and got out, went to school on the GI Bill, got married, started having children, etc. Got a couple of jobs, but then came Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been in the reserve program, so I got recalled to active duty, and after that decided to stay. During my schooling, I went to college at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and then went to law school. I got about halfway through law school, and then Korea came along. And I said, you put on your uniform again, you're going back on active duty. So I went back on active duty, and after about a year or two, I kind of enjoyed it, and I wasn't the world's greatest lawyer. I wasn't going to be. So I decided I'd stay on. And I stayed on and completed a total of 25 years in the Navy, and had various assignments all over.
What were you doing in Korea?
I was on an aircraft carrier again. But I had a different job. I was not in the squadron. I was a member of the ship's crew, and my job was catapult and arresting gears. Now, that I don't expect most people to know what that is.
We talked a little bit about it before the show, but for our viewers again, because it's
really?
fascinating, this catapult system. You don't always think of it with airplanes.
It's amazing. I sort of tracked the progress of that method of propulsion. Catapults were hydraulically controlled, which means it was used with fluid. Mm-hmm. And on an aircraft carrier, to make it as easy as or plain as I can, there's a little slot that goes down the flight deck. And that slot is attached to a cable which goes down below, way down into the bowels of the ship, onto a hydraulic machine that's about 1/10 of the size of the catapult shot area itself. And it's hydraulically operated, and a lot of pressure is built up. And the one down below, when you give it the signal to fire, will fire off, and the tube goes down a casing, and the catapult moves on the flight deck. And if you're lucky, which you are most of the time, the catapult fires the aircraft off the end of the flight deck. That's probably not the world's greatest explanation, but in any case, it's hydraulically operated, and the aircraft is accelerated so that by the time it gets to the end of the flight deck, it's going at flight speed.
Okay.
So you're going from 0 to 120 knots
Pretty quickly.
pretty quickly in about I'd say maybe I forget what the distance is, but maybe it's 50, 75 yards at most. Yeah, it's a kick, and it's not. It's operationally effective, and the reason for that is that you don't have any room on the top of the flight deck.
Sure.
There are planes all over it. There are people, etc. So, in order to just shoot, say, 2 airplanes into the air to get them to do something, you use it. But it's an interesting device in the period between then, which was pretty primitive, actually, and now they're entirely automated and much better, much smoother, etc. And they're not hydraulic. I'm not sure of the technical end of it at this time. God, I've been away from it for some while. In any case, my job on that second cruise was to ensure that both the arresting gear, which are the cables across the deck to land airplanes, and the propulsion system to send the aircraft into the air were both working well, and that's what I did for Korea.
Okay, so in Korea, so then you weren't flying in Korea. You were doing this on that.
I was, yeah, that was my primary assignment. We were flying because we had to keep up our proficiency.
Sure.
But I was not in a squadron, operating squadron. So, but it was an interesting tour. Then I come back and had various tours. We went to Europe for a couple of years.
Where were you in Europe?
Naples.
Oh, Naples, Italy.
Bella Napoli.
Ah, Bella Napoli. It's very pretty there. I visited there several years ago. I love Italy.
I had a hard time getting my family to come home.
I can understand.
even the kids. Honore, of course, was quite young, but the others were older. We have pictures of her riding her little bicycle around the streets of Naples and all. But it was that was a great tour. It was nice for the family, nice for me. You could take off and go up to the Riviera, for a weekend.
So what was your assignment when you were in Naples?
I was the executive officer of the Naval Air Facility.
Ah, okay.
In Naples, and executive officer means number 2 guy. You do all the work for the number 1 guy, and run the station. He would never admit that, but anyhow, it's the truth. But that was a great tour. Came back, had a tour at the Bureau of Naval Personnel, and then retired.
So when you came back, so were you back in Washington then?
Yeah. Bureau, the Personnel Bureau, right downtown, and retired from there as a captain. So I'd made a normal career move on up the line. I can't describe how lucky I've been.
I was going to ask you. That's where I was going to go with if you know any close calls that you had. You must have, or things that you saw early on there. Yeah,
well, the closest I ever came really was in Korea. When we were moving into the Philippines, we hopscotched all across town, all across the Pacific Ocean. Hey, Cat. And when we got to the Philippines, we were taking off one morning, getting ready to take off, and the carrier got hit by a kamikaze aircraft, a death dive with bombs. At the time that he hit, I was sitting on the flight deck in an airplane, getting ready to take off, and we were all ready to go, and so forth. And there were all these Japanese planes coming in, who were loaded with bombs, and were going to make a kamikaze raid on the aircraft carriers. So this one morning, it was quite early, we were all going, getting ready to take off, and lined up on the flight deck, and they were taking off one at a time. And at the time, at that instant, the lead planes had gone, and there were maybe 4 or 5 of them gone, and I was just about to pull into the takeoff slot and go. And they said, we've got one kamikaze. I was listening on the radio and thinking, holy God, let me out of this place. I want to get off the ship, because they were coming down all over the place. And anyhow, I look up like this, and I see this aircraft, and I thought, oh boy, he's going to land right in my lap. Fortunately, I dropped the seat, because right behind you is an armored thing. And I thought, oh baby. So anyhow, he came down. I saw him all the way down. He went boom, right into the middle of the flight deck, next to the island. You know the island, what I mean by the island, yeah. Made a hole in the flight deck, went down onto the first large deck underneath, which is the hangar deck, where all the aircraft are sort of stored, blew up. And it was really a very serious blow to the ship, because that was the end of the ship. Was not going to be able to operate at all after that, because it was a great big hole in the middle of the flight deck. So the plane went through the upper upper level of the ship, down onto the flight deck, blew up, and that was the end of our day for then.
But you were still in the plane when this was going.
Still sitting in the plane, and I missed him by about the distance from here to that front door. And I was not hurt, because the plane didn't blow up. It had bombs, of course. The bombs didn't go off till they hit the hangar deck down below. But it went right through the deck, right in front of me. I thought, oh boy. In any case, I wasn't hurt. I thought people on the island were all wiped out, but they weren't, fortunately. Anyhow, that was the end of that ship and that cruise. We had admirals come aboard and everything else and check it and say, this thing is, take it back to the States. So that was the end of that, but we had a lot of casualties. I think something like 60, 75 people were killed. And after that, the ship turned around and withdrew and whatever. But it was a big mess. It was the Battle of Philippine Sea. So, anyhow, that was the end of my wartime thing. But it was a close call. I was very fortunate, because I was right there. God almighty. Missed him by about the distance to that door. Or he missed me. But anyhow, so much for World War II and the Korean War. Then I came back and had various duties here, there, and everywhere, and a tour in Europe, 3 years, which was very nice.
So you had 3 years when you were in Italy?
Yeah, yeah. Family didn't want to come home.
That's what you were saying, yeah.
They all loved it. They all, hey, talking in Italian. Yeah. You know. So it was
quite an education for the family.
I think it was indelible. It's just Honore can tell you about it. But she was quite young there. But when we were there, she was a baby. I guess she was 4 or 5, something like that. We have pictures of her on a little tricycle going around. But she was very good. And she was number 5. So the other kids loved it. It's kind of interesting because, and I guess it happens to a lot of military families, but the older girls made friends there who turned out to be lifelong friends.
Well, this is one of the things I was going to ask you too, if there were any friendships that you forged during your military career. I'm sure there were, that you still keep in contact with.
Well, at my advanced age,
well, okay, but
there are very few left. I had a few, lost a couple just recently, but I'm in a very great minority. That's not good English, a great minority, but
there aren't that many of you around now, yes.
they're very. I'm going to be 95 in June.
In June.
So it's creeping up on me, and
well, you look great for 95. I mean, I don't know what it's going to be at 95, but you look great.
who knows?
Yeah.
Know? I take it one day at a time, and you're looking at one of the luckiest guys you've ever seen. But I am very fortunate, and, grateful for all sorts of things, friendships, family.
Now you're settling back in this area. I know you said you went to school at Georgetown. Was that a choice to settle in this part of the country, or education brought you here, or work? You said you were working back in D.C. I remember that.
This was the last duty station I had.
Ah, okay.
And I was able to get a job in the federal government, which I enjoyed. So I took it, and I was 45, I guess, when I
Now, what
retired.
kinds of things were you doing at your last assignment there in Washington?
I was the administrative assistant to the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission,
Okay.
who turned out to be just a great guy. And the chairman of these various federal agencies, they usually have a small staff of their own. And I wasn't really technically qualified for any kind of technical job, but I was qualified for administrative work. So he had a staff of about 5 people, and a fellow named Joe Hendry, who was the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission at the time of what was the big accident they had up in New Jersey, was it? Slips my mind. In any case, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission was a great job, and I was an administrative assistant. And so I served there, and eventually retired from the civil service. So I was very lucky, and had great people to work with, and my background fit in pretty well. Joe Hendry was just a great guy. I don't know if he's still alive. He moved back up to Long Island when he worked for President Jimmy Carter, and so that was an interesting job. It's a good job, and I enjoyed it. But it's time to quit everything. So.
So you had roughly 28 years then in the Navy?
25.
25.
Yeah. And then I had the civil service, where I worked. And finally, I guess I was about 65 when I finally quit. And I've been a man of leisure ever since.
You've been a man of leisure. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I had to put a plug in
Okay,
for the
put a plug.
American Red Cross.
Oh, okay.
I worked at the Naval Hospital in Bethesda for about 15 years as a Red Cross volunteer.
Now, did you go overseas in that position, or did you just stay there in Bethesda?
Oh, that was strictly civilian work right there in the hospital. But made other friends. It's amazing how much good work they do at Bethesda. I still go there for my health care, such as it is, but there are a lot of retirees over there. But that was a very interesting part of my life because I realized how much good work they did. And
I've got a good friend who was some 30 years with American Red Cross, but she was over in Afghanistan for a chunk of that, and it got to be a little overwhelming toward the end there. But
oh, I'm sure it did. My God! But they have many volunteers who work for them, and they're very good, nice, dedicated people who just have extra time and can work there. You know, there are no financial benefits to it at all, but I enjoyed it. Made some nice friendships, and was very good.
And you've got a lovely family.
Meantime, my family growing like anything. I have children, grandchildren.
How many grandchildren?
Great grandchildren. Let's see. I have to think. I have them all charted at home. Right. That's why I can't think. But I have. I had 5 girls.
5 girls.
And then I had something like 13. 11. She's signaling me. I have 11 grandchildren. And how many great-grandchildren? About 20, I think, something like that. We have an enormous family. Really.
I was going to say.
Growing,
say.
Oh, but yeah, and they all went off in different directions. Several of them are here, grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So I have quite a tribe, really. There are some in Texas, one branch of the family, another branch is in California, and then there's the group here. But they spread out, you know, people grow up, people go to school, they move here, they move there, so they're all over. And they are just great. They're great to me, you know, the old man, still here. We're not getting rid of him, not now. And we're having a big party out in Lake Tahoe. This everybody's invited. In I guess it's July.
Oh my!
For my no, it's June.
June really. For your
late June.
95th.
95th birthday. Good God, I can't believe I made it this far. Well, the only disadvantage of it is I have very few peers and buddies. You know, it's a natural way of life. You know, people.
And you probably forged some good friendships when you were, you know, in the training and then in these various.
Well, there were a number of accidents. Yes, I say in my squadron, we had 48 people, 48 pilots. We lost 16, 30%, 35%. And, you know, I knew each of them intimately. And we weren't the only ones, you know. It takes people like in the infantry and all the various other services, you know. It happens to all of them. But we had a pretty severe loss, 1/3 of our people. That's a lot to lose out of one group, you know, and I think of them often. My closest buddy that I ever had, I went through flight training with. This is a sad story, and I don't know if you want to even...
Well, I mean, we can hear it. I don't know how it is for you to tell it, to share it.
Well, it's been so many years. This is in 1944, early 44. We were on our way, I think I mentioned, we were on our way from San Diego out, and they were flying one day, and we had what we call a combat air patrol, which was just a flight patrol, about 4 or 6 people take off, fly around over the ship, do various little exercises, and then come back and land. And Bobby Martin's guys his name was. And he and I were just real tight friends. And we were coming back, or he was coming back. I wasn't flying that day. And in fact, I was down in the ready room. And he was coming around to land on the carrier. And for God knows what reason, when he was making his turn in to come in and land on the flight deck, he lost enough speed and power so that the plane just went zoom like that into the water. Bobby was never heard from again. Just the plane crashed, Went down. They never found him, never found the airplane, never anything. Sort of a shocking thing to happen, you know, to his friend that you know, and you've known for years.
Well, in particular, they weren't able to recover.
No recovery. Everything stopped immediately. Of course, and they sent a couple of ships over there to look for him, see if they could any remains of the plane or him. This was about halfway between San Diego and Awetuck, and just gone. Now that's a shock.
Yeah.
You have a breakfast with a guy, and you know he was not shot. He was not shot, but talk about something shocking. Mm. Anyhow, those things happen in wartime. It's very hard, but I've never forgotten that. 1944, 45.
Well, again,
no, 44. Yeah,
you were 22, 23 at this point in time.
Yeah, I was just a kid. You know, what did I know? Nothing. You know, amazing. Yeah, when I sit and think about something like that, I think, oh, Bobby. He never had a chance. He must have been my age, you know, 22. And close friend. We went through all training together.
Where was he from?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah. Went to Penn University. And, yeah, just crazy. And you think, you know, why did that happen, you know? I don't know. It's too deep for me. I'm not that smart. But anyhow, those things happen in wartime and in life. So what do you do about it?
Now, your overall feelings about military service in general. I usually ask this when we have these interviews, just in terms of advice to young people who might be considering it. I know it's not for everyone, but...
Well, that's true. I guess that's the most important thing. It's not true. It's not for everybody, but it's amazing. It can provide an exciting life.
It gave you a very good career overall. I mean,
and I backed into it. I was not, you know, I was a street kid. Grew up in Brooklyn, you know. Went to school. Thought I knew everything. I couldn't possibly know any more. Go to college. Well, all right, you better go to college. Well, all right, but I don't think I'm going to learn anything because I know it all already, you know, that sort of thing, that attitude. And it was particularly true of New Yorkers, I think. Everybody hate me for saying that. But as I look back on it now, I'm sure nobody could teach me anything because I knew it all. And I didn't, I needed zero, is what I knew. But it was a wake-up call going into the service, and but it did teach me. I'll tell you another quick story that's kind of amusing, but we can cut it out if it's not applicable. When I went to pre-flight school, which was in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and they were supposed to make us into military people, you know, and as I said, I was a wise guy. One morning we were this was all physical, and all I did was run you around tracks and exercise and so forth, and you were supposed to be in perfect condition by the time you got out of there, which was 90 days. Kind of an interesting fact, I went through my class was one class above a group of baseball players, and surprisingly, maybe you don't even know who it is, but our good photographer will know, Ted Williams.
Oh yeah, sure.
Ted Williams was in the class just behind me, and of course we all assembled all the time. We knew each other, and Johnny, God, I can't think of it. Anyhow, but. I'm almost forgetting the story. Oh, I know what it was, yes. One morning, we all got up, you know, we were learning how things happen in the military. And we got up one morning, and I had not quite gotten up, you know, as alertly as I should have. So instructors and all were very strict, very strict. And this one morning I got up and I didn't have enough time. I took a shower and I did this and so forth, but I didn't have time to shave. And I thought, how the hell will he'll never even notice it, you know. So when we go down, so we go down to have an inspection, so to say, which they did every morning, all lined up, everybody lined up, and the instructor, this fellow that was, he was a lieutenant, I guess, and also full of himself, but came down the line. And he was looking at everybody, just check this, check that, stomach in, uniform cleaned, buttons all buttoned, etc. And then looked at. So he went down and he went past me. Then he came back. And he looked me in the eye. I was practically terrified. And he said, "Did you shave this morning?" I said, no, sir. I said, I overslept for about 10 minutes. I didn't have time to do it. He just looked at me, and then he ranted for about 5 minutes. He said, if you ever show up here looking like that again, he said, don't you understand the regulations? And he went on and on, and he just chewed me out something over. Scared the hell out of me. Here I am now. I'm 40 years old, and I still remember it. Day to day. But he just chewed me out, and I have never, ever forgotten it. And now, as a result, you know, my wife and my daughters and all will testify to this. When I get up in the morning, I don't care where I am, I have to make the bed. Because that's what he said. You make the bed, you shave, you shower, you dress, you clean clothes, and don't ever, he said, if I catch you not shaving again, you're going to get out of here. You're going to turn into just a regular sailor. And I said, oh, okay, because we were aviation cadets, and we thought we were hot stuff, you know. So anyhow, I've never forgotten.
Interesting things that'll stay with you.
God, this was 1942. I guess it was, or 43. Yeah, 1943. I've never forgotten that guy. He chewed my tail, and I could see all the guys standing in line behind me they couldn't hardly stand it. They were all laughing because this guy, boy, he took a bite out of me, and it's amazing the things as you get old, as I am, you remember them. But that story, that guy chewed on me, and that's carried through right till today.
Well, you look great.
I couldn't come over here without shaving, and I damn well better make my bed. Lord. But it was really amusing. As I say, it's an impression. He was going to send me out. He wasn't kidding either. He said, if I ever catch you, Dorie, without shaving, yes, sir. So, but I'm sure that's fairly typical. In a way, military service is a mixture of all sorts of things. But one of the things it does, it teaches you things that you never knew, or may not. Who knows? I might have been some sort of a slob walking around, never shaving. I don't know. But this guy just tickled me. It's funny. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but it's an amusing thing that it makes an imprint on you. And I think it probably applies to your children the same way, you know. And I've tried to be as fair as I can with my kids, but also you need to be disciplined. So. Yeah. That's off the subject, I know.
No, but it's all part of the...
It's all part of the military life. And you better do, you know. Somebody's going to call you. There's always someone who's above you. There are people below you, too, that you have to be careful about. And you got to take care of people who are below you, as well as being a disciplinarian and being credible in your rank, whatever it is. So, military's a good life. It's been very good to me. I have no regrets in any way. So that brings us right up to today, and here I am.
Here you are, and it's been a privilege chatting with you.
Well, I don't know.
Well, you've weathered a lot, and here you are.
I'm trying to figure out what I should have told you, and what I did and what I didn't. But and anyhow, that's the highlights. The most important thing, of course, is my family, and there's no question about that. That's number one priority. 5 daughters. Talk about this guy after me for not shaving. You can't get away with anything with 5 daughters.
No.
There you are, and my lovely wife, who I lost almost 20 years ago. But between my wife, Margaret, and the girls, maybe that's why I'm still still going here. I don't know.
One more question I have before we wrap this up. What's it like flying?
Oh, there's no other sensation. You mean actually flying the aircraft?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I can remember the first flight I ever took alone. When we went up to Albany. This is when I first enlisted back in 42, early 42. I think it was, the month after Pearl Harbor, which was December 41. So this was early 42 after I enlisted. And we went to a little place called Loudonville, to a Catholic school, and they were to sort of, well, I won't say babysit, but they would sort of take care of us for a short period of about 6 or 8 weeks while we were waiting to get into the pre-flight school down in North Carolina. And in the meantime, we were supposed to take flying lessons, and they had little Piper Cubs, which are like, just little Pipers, yeah. But anyhow, these were decrepit little things. And I can remember we had an instructor who was a foreign guy. I don't know where he was from, but somebody spoke with an accent. And he would take us up and fly us around and tell us, this is what you have to do, and don't do this and don't do that, and you're taking them off, and etc. You fly, and then you land, and you be careful, etc. So he did that for about 2 or 3 flights, and we had to read a book and take a little written test, and then when you go out to the field the next time, it'd say, okay, you take the airplane, and you fly it around for an hour or so, then you come back and land. And I can remember taking off in this little Piper Club all by myself. There was nobody in the airplane. There were only 2 seats. And there was nobody back there. It was just me. And I'm in this airplane, and I'm like 19, 20 years old, and I push the throttle, and the airplane takes off. And I can remember shouting, holy something or other, flying an airplane. And I just held that stick, and I flew it around. We made a couple of circles. Then I went a little bit away so I could look around. And I flew for about a half an hour, maybe an hour. I came back, and I found the runway, and I thought, oh my God, now, what do I do now? Okay, you go around this way, then you come down, and you pull the throttle back so that the engine slows down, and the props do not go around. And I came down, and I rammed that thing into the ground, But it was safe enough. I didn't blow the tires, didn't do anything, taxied it in, and I just sat there. And I thought, that's amazing. I flew that airplane. And by the time I got out of the Navy, I had over 3,000 hours in aircraft. Wow. 3,000, yeah. And that, you have to distinguish what you're talking about, flight hours. There are people who fly airplanes, and that's their time, you know. There are people that fly airplanes, like for the airlines. They fly airplanes for about 15 minutes, and then they put it on automatic pilot, and they sit and drink coffee for about 6 hours till they get to California, and then they fly the airplane again. But their hours are computed differently, is what I'm saying. It's a little envy thing, you know.
Yeah,
And
okay.
it's like saying, well, okay, if I did that kind of thing, you know, I'd have a zillion hours, but I have 3,000 hours of what we call stick time. So that's another story. That's one of my little things. But that first flight, I'll never forget it. Wow. And it's amazing. As I say, as you get to be an old cuss like myself, you remember some of those things. But I must say that as a wrap-up, so to speak, that I have very few, if any, regrets. I've been very lucky. And I say lucky, and I really mean lucky. Not only with the life that I've led, but the family I've brought into the world. And I'm very grateful for everything I've done. And it's almost wrap-up time, but yes. I'm very pleased the way it worked out. I have all these girls. They won't let me get away with anything, you know. My God, where are you going, Dad? The phone rings. What are you doing, Dad? We're all going out to Lake Tahoe. That's what we got to do this year to really celebrate. But in any case, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Oh, it's been absolutely a pleasure and a privilege chatting with you.
You're very patient. How could you stand to listen to all this stuff?
No. These stories are fascinating, definitely worth sharing. So thank you again. Thank you for this.
My pleasure. And I didn't lie very much.
I didn't think you did.
Most of it is true.
I didn't think you did. Your nose didn't start growing or anything, so we're good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate
anytime. And, good to talk with you.
All righty. And thank you to our viewers for joining us today on this episode. You can find the complete list of them at Culpeper Media Network. We'll be doing more of them, sharing more stories of our veterans. Again, the series is called War Veterans, History of Our Heroes. You can find it on Culpeper Media Network. And certainly, if you are a veteran or you know of a veteran who you'd like to be interviewed, please contact the station. Thank you. And come listen to us again.